I'm Jessica. I'm events director for CBI. I also advise stations in Atlanta and Savannah at Savannah College of Art and Design at both places. I spend a lot of time on Zoom. Um, I've tried to curate my background to appeal to the art student audience, but it's not my thing. Um, our next session like this is going to be on fundraising ideas and more with Joyce McDonald, the president and CEO of Greater Public. And that will be Tuesday, April 27th at 2. You can sign up for it on the same page where you signed up for this one. And then we hope to have some more interesting announcements for summer coming up for our programs that we're going to keep going over the summer. We're trying to do 1 or 2 a month. I know in the summer when it's kind of dead, it's tough to get people to do stuff. So summer might be a little bit different. And then all leading up to October 27th through 30 in sunny, beautiful Orlando. Which check that out. Like, if you want to go to one of the parks, you have to make like a park reservation on top of buying your ticket. So they can tell you early that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is full, like right now, or not full. So if you think you might want to do that on like the day before or the day after, do that early. That's my whole advice on that. Because we have to go for a visit in the summer, and I missed out on my Star Wars land visit. I gotta drink blue milk at home, I guess. So anyway, we are going to talk about in-studio safety, kind of what you're doing. What we talked about this before last August, and it was a little bit different because, we were still kind of brand new, trying to see what worked, what didn't work. And now we've been doing it for a while. So hopefully we all know some of what works and some of what doesn't work. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that for radio and TV. And then we're going to kind of get everybody's best ideas, worst ideas, whatever's working, not working for y'all all over. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean and John, and I'll be right here for help and assistance. Hey guys.
Howdy.
Hello. You want to start, Sean, or do you want to just...
Sure. So, John and I, if you weren't here in the summer, we were preparing for what was going to be in studio students again, and how we were going to get through that. And John, why don't we show and tell at the same time? We all probably have a lifetime supply of 75% alcohol wipes, which we really talked about before. We made sure that every studio has this, and if you haven't checked yet, in our chat, we did upload the documents, our equipment sanitation documents that we were working on in the summer, and now the more updated version for John, because he's now back in person. He wasn't for a while. So that is in the chat as a resource. Please feel free to use that as a guideline for any sanitation guides that you may need to be working on. We also had installed in every room and bought plenty of refill of our hand sanitizer. And then on Amazon, we had talked about they sell really great little headphone covers, even though we are not sharing headphones. John has some right there. They are large enough to go on the front of the microphone. So we were putting them on in addition to our windscreens. And we bought tons of windscreens. If you haven't gotten them, they're back in stock now. And Jessica at Broadcaster General Store is really good at getting a turnaround for you on those, but so Amazon as well. So we're wiping down. We are swapping these things out constantly and making sure that we're using Dawn, right? So we're using Dawn on our windscreens, getting them really nice and clean, and supplying the next batch. So we're doing it in rounds. A few things that we encountered was, I don't know, students actually getting COVID, and what that would do to our stations, both on television and in radio. So at one point, I was out for my students were out for 3 weeks. The entire building was quarantined. 2 students had COVID, and it was do we shut down, or do we think fast and try to come up with some ideas? And let me show you a few things that we did. I'm going to share my screen and show you first prior to COVID coming to my building, I worked on separating everybody from each other. So we have our studio has a pretty large desk. So I'm able to, I only allow 3 students in at a time. And you'll see I did put plexiglass in there. As we all know, it's airborne. The plexiglass isn't going to stop it from going into the air, but we did install, and John's going to show you his in a minute, we installed air purifiers in every one of the rooms. So they're constantly on. The processing on the microphones is good enough that you do not hear the humming going over the air. And they're recycling new air 24 times in an hour. So it's a HEPA filter from Honeywell. So it's really nice. If you have more than 3 people, you were moved into any of our other studios. We're an audio over IP station, so we have Axia as our consoles. And I created a backfeed in each one of these studios so that they can hear each other on the air. And when they turn their mics off, their feed in the studio is a mixture of every other studio, so they can talk to each other, and they see this quad box that you're looking at right now. So if they're having a conversation with each other, they can still see each other, and it's not delayed. It's able to be, as realistic as humanly possible. Now we go into the, someone's quarantined. What do we do? So we've actually been using Clean Feed for one to get people into our radio studio remotely. And it's really great because if anyone pays for the pro version, you have a lot more control over noise cancellation, headphone repair. You can mono something or keep it in stereo. So it gives you a lot of control. And we've been using it actually the entire academic year with a couple of our shows who have chosen to go remotely. For TV, we're using TriCasters in my facility, and Teams has become NDI compliant. So I've had anchors quarantined for a couple weeks, and using the NDI from Teams, I just opened up a Teams call and I bring them into the switcher, and my webcam in Teams is the teleprompter feed. So we've been able to send the prompter back over Teams, just regular stuff that we're all using. Now, I'm a stickler for great sounding audio and good looking video. So I invested a lot in USB mics. So this is a Marantz USB mics, and it's a handheld. But the best bargain for our buck we found was this Marantz Pro Pod. It was $59 on Amazon, and it comes with the boom arm. So we've been using these. Anytime someone goes into quarantine, I have a quarantine package that gets put over to the dorms, and people are able to still do their radio shows. We have remote access for our students via VPN, and they can use Zeta to go if they wanted to pre-record their shows or things like that. The big question everyone gets is, so did the students actually follow through? And overwhelmingly, I can tell you, they have followed everything that I have put in to our studio guide, our equipment cleanliness plan. They have followed it because they don't want to make you mad. They don't want to disappoint you. John, you're laughing behind your mask, but you know it's true. There's nothing worse than them hearing that you're disappointed. And I'd say we've had a 95% success rate. We had 2 incidents where people just did not wear their masks. They did not clean up after themselves. They didn't use a mic cover, and that was their only time that they got to mess up. And then they were gone. So everyone has been really, really good. I am a little bit different than John. If you are a single show and it's only you in the studio, you may take your mask off when you are on the air. When you are in song breaks, it has to be on. As you can see, I can see every room in the building, so they don't screw around with me. But it's been really good. The only time I have let anyone that has more than one show take their mask off has been if they are roommates. They're already living together. That is the exception. That exception has only happened once, and it was last semester. So it's been really, really good. The same setup that you saw, the quad box, we've been using that for our studio, for our TV studio too. if we needed to have guests or more than one person in the studio, we sent them to an external studio, and we fed them a video and audio feed back and forth. So it's almost like a remote broadcast. They're in the same building, but they are not in the same room, and they're never in the same room. We make sure to keep them separated, but everyone is responsible to wipe everything down, dispose of the of anything that they use, and make it look just as nice and clean as they found it. And my work studies go through at the end of every week and do an extra wipe down just in case, the housekeeping people here don't do it. So overall, what we talked about in the past, preparing and to where we are now, it's gotten to be a nice routine for us. John, how's it been for you guys? Because WLOY just kind of came back this semester fully in person.
Yeah, we started this semester with a weird mix of students that are in town but not allowed on campus because they registered as remote, students that are in town allowed on campus, and students that are on campus. We actually have students that are on campus that aren't allowed in some of the buildings because of the way they registered themselves for remote access. It's very strange. So it's been a weird hybrid of trying to figure out what we could do. Because of our campus mask rules, there are some exceptions for faculty in their offices to be maskless, but as you can see, I'm trying to comply with my own rules for our space, which is no mask, no entry, no discussion. We have our own, it's a decent sized space. We have 4 studios, music library, and a lobby area. But we're all on the same HVAC system for that space. So we're just trying to keep it all kind of controlled and contained in terms of airflow. We do have the university installed a special HEPA filter on our space for the HVAC. And as you mentioned, we have these lovely little UV air filter units that thankfully facilities paid for. And we have one in every room in the station as well, which is very helpful, a little reassuring for the students when they come in also. You can see attached to the chat, the form that I have all the students sign, which is basically their understanding and agreeing to essentially clean the space when they're done with it. So we have the little mic covers. These, as Sean mentioned, you can get these in a standard size that'll work for both earphones and microphones. We just have every student, there's a bowl of those right by the studio. Each studio, when they go in, they can take them, put them on the headphones and the mic, and when they're done their show, they take them off and throw them in the trash. We are cleaning and replacing the foam covers as well periodically. We don't have a lot of students in. It's something actually I normally did anyway during flu season. For years, I've been sanitizing and cleaning all of the mic covers. So this isn't a huge step in more than that, but it's helpful to get the students to understand that they have some responsibility for the space they're in and the other people they're working with. So having them following these rules, I think, has been really helpful. I have seen students that I previously wouldn't have thought were the most responsible students actually doing the things they're supposed to be doing, which has been really good. We do have a restriction of one student. So Sandra, hopefully you can just scroll back and you can see both mine and Sean's documents attached. If not, Jessica will send them out to everybody or post them with the video for this so that everybody gets them. So we have a restriction of one student per studio. The exception was going to be for roommates, but thus far none of our DJ teams have been roommates, so we haven't had to do that. What I've done for DJs that are normally a 2 or a 3 person, like our sports talk kids are usually a 3-person show. One of them lives off campus, isn't even allowed on campus, and 2 of them are on campus. One of them has been in a dorm that's been locked down twice. So from the beginning, rather than have them all in the station and worrying about it, what we did is put in just a cheap little webcam, which normally nobody wanted in our studios. None of the students wanted to be on camera, and none of them wanted us to add a camera, but we added that for their show. It's got a little flip over cover so that they can not be seen if they don't want to be seen. But for the sports kids, it's been really great. The 2 of them are on by Zoom mixed together along with the kid who's live. It's actually worked out well because they can use the audition bus on our console as a talkback, so they can communicate with each other off the air, which is nice. Um, it was a little odd getting them started, in part because they'd been gone for almost a year, so they had to sort of get re-comfortable with the studio. But each of the two kids that has been able to come in on campus has gotten through it and trained, and now they're flying through it. They're very comfortable with it. They've actually started inviting some of our former sports kids from the alumni group to come in and join them on Zoom. Um, they're supposed to be next week bringing in, we had two kids who just won Emmys for Major League Baseball tonight. So they're going to bring those guys back in and have a little like awards dance with them, I think. But that's worked out really well for bringing in the students that were unable to be in the studio at the same time. We have separate studios, so we've had students in doing pre-recording in one studio while another one's been live. We have a lot of students that are pre-recording now because of time conflicts and everything else. Again, because we have students that are restricted to off campus or have not even come back to campus at all. We have a bunch of remote shows being recorded and sent in. So I have a student that does most of the production editing on that just to make sure that they're okay. And I usually give them a quick final check. Same thing with, it's actually been kind of a boon for us in terms of interview access with artists, because the artists have been all sitting at home instead of touring. So we've had a lot more Zoom interviews that the students have been able to do, which has made them happy. But generally speaking, I mean, we haven't had any real issues with compliance. Everyone seems to be pretty comfortable with following the basic rules. I know Sandra had sent me yesterday an article that was in the Atlantic that's essentially saying that surface cleaning is really performative. It's not all that necessary compared to things that are dealing with airborne. And I don't have an argument one way or the other about that, the validity of that, more that I'm just glad that getting the students to more compulsively clean things for once. You know, it used to be hard enough to get them to remember to take their CDs out of the studio when they left. Now they're actually cleaning up after themselves. So I'm not really concerned with why. I'm just glad they are finally taking a little more responsibility there. But yeah, so far it's been really good. It's going to be a bit of a test this weekend because it's Vinylthon. I've had students coming in all sorts of weird hours this week, recording shows in advance. I'm going to have some in here live. We're spacing them out so that there's an hour gap between each live show, and hopefully that'll just flow relatively easily. We will see, but I think other than that, the biggest thing for us success-wise has been the quarantine takeover shows, getting artists that are stuck at home and bored and interested to record a 1-hour show, basically highlighting themselves, their influences and stuff they like, and sending it into us. So we've been able to get stuff from all over the world, which has been kind of fun, and gets the artists to know who we are, gets their audience to find us, and it's been a cool thing to do.
Before we start to ask other people some of the successes that they've had, and Jessica too, I forgot. So I also run our sports broadcasting, and we actually had a couple games that we had to broadcast. I refused to let any student into our arena because there was, at any point, 8 to 16 people running around with no mask on. We have PTZ cameras across the street, and the way that I said to our athletic department was, we'll do it only if I can successfully get a feed from across the street, have control of the cameras, and get your scoreboard information sent over. And again, we're a new tech campus. It worked, and I was able to control everything from our studio over here. And what we did was we social distanced our play-by-play and color guys in different rooms of our building. We gave them a generic wide feed so they could just see the whole game left and right. And we would, we inserted the instant replay and things like that, but we didn't let them see it. We just wanted them to watch the game that way. And I set up a microphone across the street in the arena so that we still got some crowd noise. So we got the crowd noise, sneaker noise, really, if we're going to be honest. And it worked out really, really well. It was a very massive undertaking. It took us a couple of days to, tweak it and get it right, but it ended up working out really well. And something John had mentioned was about the webcams in the studios. I was against it as well. Not only did we install the one camera up so we can see everybody in the actual main studio, we put a webcam up so if we had someone remote, even though we were using clean feed, we have Microsoft Teams, and our Microsoft Teams, let me show you, we have an actual, I had the IT give me a team for the radio station. So I have a team here, and anytime someone was going to be remote, we would just go live in the team channel, and whoever was remote would come in there with us. We would mute our microphones and then use clean feed to have the higher quality audio. And the camera was right in front of their face on the, where the VU meters were. So they were always looking at each other and always seeing each other, and they were always in sync. And, beforehand I was going to have them use the hand tool to raise their hand if they wanted to speak, so they weren't talking over. But they got into a groove. Eventually, they would just raise their hand and they would acknowledge, I see it. And when they would stop talking, the remote person would come in, and vice versa. So it took a little finessing, but it got really easy to do, especially because with the Teams thing, you can have the chat, you can store your data in there, and it doesn't go away unlike a Zoom call, right? Like once we hang up here, everything that we said in the chat goes away. So that was really important to us, to be able to share files, to be able to talk to each other, and be able to see each other and have it all stay. So if your school is a Teams school, it really would be worth it for your media organization to have a space. We actually, even for our news show, we have all of the files for each of our news show get set up in the Teams channel. So their graphics, any videos they're putting in, all of that stuff, they're working remotely for most of it. We're not really meeting in person until it's the day of the show. And even then we're separated. So they do all of their prep work in Teams. And when you go in, you'll see it's broken down by the different segments for the day, a graphic cue sheet. So we know the script, everything's there. And then it's one of their responsibilities when they get to campus to put it onto the server and get it into the switcher. But it's been really helpful to have that remote workflow and know that it's not going to be in some generic SharePoint site or a OneDrive or a Google Drive that, all right, well, that person graduated, so my access to all of that is gone. So it was really beneficial. And we've been doing that for our film club. We have a video game show, so they're sharing their files in there. And they're also sharing the final episode in there, and then they go and they have the file they can share on their own social media and get it out there too. So it's been really beneficial. The last thing before we spin to Jessica was about remote, the quarantine takeover. So we partner with WMMR in Philadelphia to do the Camp Out for Hunger and the different videos with the Preston and Steve show, who's their morning show. This year, obviously, we had to very much social distance. We couldn't have anybody in studio at all. And we knew that it was going to be Zoom filled. And like us, the majority of commercial radio stations were not equipped to do this. They just didn't have the foresight to think, I'm going to bring a guest in through Zoom. So we had to help them out. And there is a really great tool called Audio Movers, if anyone's ever is familiar with it. Audio Movers is a plugin. It goes into any digital audio workspace. It could be Audacity if you don't pay for one, all the way up to Pro Tools or Audition. What we did was we would Zoom some of these different artists and get their video, but we would have their audio set up in the Audio Movers plugin, the Listen To plugin. So this is, I'm going to play for you, Nothing But Thieves. So the band Nothing But Thieves came on and they performed for us. So there's a little bit of a delay with the video from the audio. The audio is very low latency and sounds incredible. So you'll hear a little bit of it. Let me get to the better part. Now, yes, it sounds great, but let me tell you what's really cool about it. We were in South Philadelphia. They were in London. So that feed came to us from London, and it sounded that good. And at the end of it, we surprised them with John Bon Jovi.
I don't know if that's...
John,
Hi, guy.
did you hear their performance, John?
No, because you guys wouldn't log me in.
Everybody has Zoom problems once in a while, including us, but he's lying a little bit. We did let him in for the last 45 seconds, but the joke wouldn't have landed. But this Audio Movers plugin has been really great, and we've actually done stuff at Neumann with WNUW, but I also had Michael Giacchino, the composer, Up, The Incredibles, all of those things. We had him be a house band for us at WMMR, and we used that plugin and then Zoom to connect him because we couldn't get equipment to him during the wildfires out in LA. So the technology has really gotten better, and we've been able to do live recordings and live performances with these plugins. And the Listen To plugin from Audio Movers is $99 for a year. And for the quality that you just heard, and we also had Collective Soul on too, like it's pretty darn good. Jessica, how has things been with you?
Well, first we got a question in the chat. Do you pay for a pro clean feed for everyone, or do they all use the free version?
I pay for it just because I'm a control freak, and I really like to be able to have control of multi-tracks. Like multi-track recording is very important to me. So that's one of the reasons I pay for the pro. And it also gives me the ability, if I'm remote, to use a clips feed, so I can have, essentially like hotkeys, and it lets me really have control over the repairing of the audio. So if they don't have headphones, you get a lot more control over it. Let me, I'm going to answer the audio. It is audiomovers.com. And the plugin is called Listen To. So if you hit download, let me share my screen one last time. So if you go to audiomovers.com, you go to downloads, it's Listen To. It's the Listen To plugin. And what happens is you have a Listen To on your end, and then the other end has their own session, and then you subscribe to each to hear each other. And you just bring it in. There's plenty of videos to show you how to do it, but essentially you're just putting it in as an effect on a channel in one of these DAWs, and that's how you bring the audio to and from. So Jessica, go ahead.
Neat. So we're kind of like way low tech. We're 2 online stations. We've got pretty small groups. We were totally shut down from March until August. We didn't even have meetings. I didn't even know if I was getting my job back. It was that kind of shutdown. So now we got it. So we have 1 DJ per day, and they can do a 2 or 3 hour show. They can either that can be a show or office hours or whatever. When they first got in, basically they were just uploading the music and updating the track list, because we were playing the same old stuff from last March, which was getting really tedious. I mean, we have a pretty big full library that it will roll through, but if the heavy rotation stuff was getting really, really old. Probably not to anybody but me, because probably not everybody was tuning in to make sure the station was still on, except me every day. So after we kind of got over that, they're going in once a day. I have to clear it with security. Every building, luckily our student studios are both in residence halls. So they're buildings that students are already going into. So they have security, they have temperature checks. You have to do this survey on your phone before you get there that clears you. And some of the survey questions are very picky. And then there's also a whole back end of people that will call you. If you tap that you coughed once last week, somebody will call you and follow up about it and then unlock your access to the building. So that was kind of the first part. We can only do shows during office hours of the school, because that's when security is there. That's when the security supervisors are there. That's all of those things. That's their rules about getting there. And I can't be there, which is kind of frustrating, because usually if people have problems, I'm right downstairs. But now instead, I'm right on the Zoom for, whatever, or in your Slack or however I can help you. Our next thing we're going to do is some training shifts where somebody, because we haven't been able to train any new DJs, under our new thing, we can only have one at a time. I'm about to ask my supervisor about roommates because we do have 2 roommates. Our GM and music director are roommates and want to do a show together. And so it's like they live together, they share a car, they're already like, that's how that is. So we're working on that, and then we're working on some training shifts since a lot of our DJs are juniors and seniors. We haven't been able to train a lot of new students, get a lot of new students involved. So we're going to do some of the basic training stuff with like phone camera on a tripod and somebody just walking through it on the air. And not only, I feel like those will be great for right now, but I think we'll probably keep them forever. There's always going to be some, hey, how did we used to do that? Or how did we figure that out? Or how did we train this before? And kind of maybe not move everything to this kind of virtual, like click on this video and get trained as a DJ, but kind of a basic prep before you come in ready with your questions and follow up. So that's kind of where we are. Our school's plan is for summer, we're all going to be back in our offices. So no one will see me Zooming from this apartment anymore, which is sad. I'll have to take all the toys back to work, I guess. We'll have to take the sign. I brought our SCAD sign home with me.
That's what made me not sure if you were at the office or not, because every time we've done a Zoom from your studios, you've had that there. So you fooled me.
Yep. I figured it would fool exactly the right people who have seen one. Like my mom saw it on a Zoom and she says, "You have one of those things like on NPR." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I certainly do." So things like that.
Erica had one in her background too, I saw.
I feel like that's
from our studio.
The way to do it. That's the way to prove that you're legit. So that's my secret. But then I'll be back in my office, and then the students will be right upstairs in the studio. So it'll be nice. And my office is really big there. So they're going to let us have 2 people in there because we can have pretty good social distancing. Me and 2 other students can work in that office at the same time. That's the limit, but that's at least, yelling distance for a real conversation. And then that's the plan for summer. And the plan for fall is totally back.
Same.
Which is really exciting. Can't wait for fall orientation and new people. So that's we kind of just started getting people back. So it's gone okay. We're on quarters. It's almost spring quarter midterms. So we've got 5 weeks left of school. And I'm sure it will drop off a bit as we get between midterms and finals, as it always does. That's just how we go. So, but I want to hear like what's worked and what hasn't worked. I want everybody to get a chance to share kind of their
please
vibe.
Raise your hand. Something else, while we're waiting for hands to be raised, the interviewing of people, if it's not going to be done live, there's some other cool things that we've discovered and we're using, like Riverside.fm. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. It is a paid subscription. I think I paid like around $225 for a year. But what's different about it than Zoom is it doesn't compress your audio or your video, and it doesn't record it into the cloud. So it's making the recordings in your browser, and now they have an iPhone app. So if you're sending it to a guest and they can use their 4K camera and the good microphone on their iPhone, it stores it locally and then pushes that recording to the cloud. So there's no compression happening in the cloud. The way I heard it, Dax Shepard does a podcast called The Armchair Expert, and he had Hillary Clinton on, and I was like, wow, Hillary Clinton sounds really good. I wonder what she's doing. She's using Riverside as the platform to get these really high quality audio and video recordings. So it's something else. If it doesn't have to be live and you can record it, edit it for later, it's something else to look into. I see Sandra first, and then Erica was next. So Sandra.
So I wanted to just mention about sports, since Sean had mentioned sports. So we have not been able to be in the station. That's very interesting that you personally can't go in there, Jessica, because my engineer, myself, and the operations person can go into the station, but nobody else could go. And then, so that was the beginning few months. And then, of course, sports in the fall happened, and we've been broadcasting sports for 37, 40 years or something. So of course we were going to do football because that's what you do. But we still couldn't go in the stations. So because football is pretty more time, less problematic than say baseball, we did 2 live games, and our play-by-play and the color guy, we actually could get 3 people to be able to go into the stadium and call the games live. We're on the roof at the football stadium, so it's outdoors. So 6 feet apart on the roof with masks on, it totally was fine. One of the games was canceled because of COVID, so we did 2. Then for men's and women's basketball, once again, I was able to get, but then only 2 people, so no spotter or anything like that. And so we did 11 basketball games. None of the ones that we were doing were canceled for COVID, which was amazing, but less people, less hitting each other or whatever. And now we're doing 11 baseball games. And once again, we're back to only having 2 people. Our position obviously is outside, but now I have 4 people who are already on the essential list for the campus, who are staff, who are DJs at the station. So they can come in, and since baseball can be 2.5 to 4.5 hours long, they come in and DJ after. So I've got DJs back in for post baseball, at least for 2 months, till we go back to automation.
That's great. Erica, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, so we've been pretty lucky to have a hybrid approach this whole time. We have students, but we also have community volunteers at our station. So a handful of those folks have been allowed to go in studio the whole time, but it was limited to just a certain number, distance, spread out throughout the entire week. We did all the in-studio protocols for mic covers and cleaning and all of that. And to date have had no problems with anyone becoming ill or needing to shut the studio down. So that's been great. But for students, they haven't been allowed to be on campus at all. So it's really been a combination of people sending in pre-recorded shows, doing training sessions for that. We've also, one of the early experiments that I did that was successful was connecting to our studio computer over VPN, starting a Zoom session, connecting with the student, and then giving them mouse control so they can just play audio directly from that computer. And that approach has worked well. We've had just a few shows doing that, but the one thing that we're going to be doing pretty soon is Alumni Weekend is coming up, and we typically do reunion broadcasts during that weekend. And so we're going to use the Zoom approach and have alumni connect, and we're going to encourage people to get with their friend group from that time, get in on Zoom, and send us some audio, before then, like what were your favorite tracks from back in the day. And so we're hoping that's going to go off and be a lot of fun for folks. Just a little bit that I've posted on social media, being friends with various alumni DJs, and they see that students are doing it. They're like, oh my goodness, I want to do a Zoom show, because maybe they're not planning on coming back to campus anytime soon. So that was just one thing I wanted to share with folks.
Thank you. I see Jamie.
I feel like the Wild West over here. I have been back at the station full time since the end of July, and you can tell that that's where I am because I ran to the back and grabbed my sign. And my students were like, why are you running down the hall? Because I'm not known for running. But we've been back. The DJs were allowed back in early July, and then I was asked to come back in late July. Well, August, but I had to come back for RCS training because we moved to G Selector in July. DJs are allowed in. You can have one other person in the studio with you who is your co-host. We did DJ training. Obviously we had like 10 or 15 total. The training itself was over Zoom, the classroom portion. And then we had in studio training. We made sure that everyone was okay with having a person on their shift. And if they were, we assigned them a DJ trainer, and everything's been going really well. There was only one documented COVID exposure at the radio station. That was me, actually. I was exposed to COVID in the literal studio, but I didn't get it and everything was fine. And the person who did not give it to me wasn't very sick, but we haven't had any outbreaks really among the staff, and everything's been good. Our vaccination rates are pretty good. Yesterday was my 2 weeks, so I'm officially ready to throw this thing away. Just kidding, I'm going to keep it forever. And a lot of my staff are getting vaccinated, so that's good. We have a clinic on campus, so that really helps. The reason I came to this meeting is because I wanted to see what y'all's opinion was on if I still need to keep an hour in between DJ shifts. I still don't want multiple people in the studio at a given time. The one person would have to leave before the next person comes.
I mean, I have the higher powered air filters in there, so I'm allowing people to come in after because it's recycling air 24 times an hour. We're also on our own independent HVAC system here. When they built the building, we were separate from the rest of it. So I'm allowing people to have back-to-back shows. We don't really have that this semester. I think people may have intentionally kind of spaced it out for when they were doing it. And a lot of people still have some sort of a hybrid course load, so they're not actually all coming into campus the way that they used to. For extra precaution, I would say, if that's what you're thinking about, yeah, another hour to air out the studio is fine, unless you put something in there that can help recycle the air.
We got nothing.
Then I would definitely let it breathe for a little bit, open the doors, and let it, get some new air in there. John, would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely. If you don't have anything in there, I would give an hour gap just to be on the safe side. It doesn't hurt. You might approach your facilities people though and ask them if they have a UV air purifier you can use in the studio so that students can do that. Even if you still keep the hour gap. I mean, I was very—
Most of our facilities people are charging a COVID account too, so it's not hitting their budget.
Exactly. And that was what I found when I started asking the questions back in February of last year. They all kind of responded and said, yeah, we're putting together supplies. What do you need? So
most of it comes from the CARES Act, so it doesn't hit the actual university operating budget.
Yeah. So I would inquire. Yeah. Contact whoever your facilities director is and ask them and explain that you have X number of students and they're in common space and they come from different places. And so I mean, it depends, I'm sure, on everybody's facilities, but our folks were really on it, which was great.
And I would agree with John. We're going to do every other studio whenever I can get people coming back in, because I'm in a basement of an 8-story building with crappy to begin with. And even though I have air filters with HEPA filters in each of the studios, I really don't trust it.
Thank you.
I just looked up real quick that air purifier droid that John held up. It's on the Bed Bath & Beyond website for like $103.99. So if you don't want to, if that's a thing, sometimes, mostly things that are around $100, sometimes I can just buy them and get reimbursed for them and never have to tell anybody. And then things that are over $100, sometimes I have to go through more hoops. So this might be a thing that I just get. So I think it's the same one, but yeah.
Drop the link in the chat.
Yes.
Please.
I just love that you stuck with the Star Wars reference and called it a droid.
I have a Roomba, and my Roomba has had a droid name since I got him. Like they all have a personality. So that's how it is. But that's kind of what it looks like. So if that's the same one.
Looks very similar.
And you know I got a 20% off coupon somewhere.
Does anyone else want to share some things that have happened at your studio, challenges or successes that you've had? Please feel free to raise your hand and let us know. We all are here to learn. Brian.
Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. So yeah, we're quite different from your average college radio station because we don't have an academic program here anymore. We're a community college in the San Francisco South Bay area, and the academic program closed down some years ago. So they switched us to community education, and it's mostly community members. We do get a few Foothill students from time to time, but we're mostly doing the same stuff that everyone else is doing. What happened to my notes? I jotted down a few notes here. So we are bound by the campus, or rather the college district regulations on this. So, you know, they've asked us, for example, we've had to close down our production studios. We're not really allowed to go in there. So we can't do this switch studio thing. So we have live DJs going up. We've had live DJs going up really throughout. And as things have improved, some of the people who elected not to go up have now been vaccinated. They are now going up. So that's fine. To fill the gaps, we've been rerunning, mostly rebroadcasting stuff from our 15-year aircheck archive, which is all online. So we remote control that through VPN. That's been working extremely well. Those that do go up to the station, mask is mandatory. Cleaning all the working surfaces. Covers on the microphone, covers on the headphones. We got 2 air purifiers in the studio. I go up and clean those filters regularly. Actually, recently, just the last few days, you know, there was that thing in the news about the scientists are basically saying, you know, it's pretty much airborne only, and the chances of picking up something from a surface are minimal now. So we've got a lot of people saying, well, why do we have to keep wiping down? Why do we keep having to use these wipes? And it's a bit of a controversial topic. We have our staff meeting tonight. We're going to be basically saying we want people to continue doing that regardless, because it's all part of good practice and it keeps everybody just thinking about cleanliness. So I think that's really quite important. We don't have to have gaps between live shows, but we don't allow 2 people in the studio at the same time. So the outgoing DJ will put on a long track and bail, and then the new person will come in and take over. They don't really need to see each other at all. So that's been working quite well. We're very keen to get some live music going. So I'm really, really interested in the stuff that was being discussed about that. We do have some plans. There are a number of different platforms. I wasn't aware of that new one that was being talked about, that Audio Movers thing. So I'm going to look into that. But other than that, we've been very fortunate. We only had 1 person with a positive test, and that proved to be nothing to do with the station. There was 1 other campus employee, and that employee never went anywhere near the station. So yeah, we've been very fortunate overall. We've been able to be about 2/3 live throughout, and now we're probably about 3/4 live. But doing these rebroadcasts has been very interesting, hearing some voices we haven't heard on the air for donkey's years, and hearing old production spots and old legal IDs and all that sort of fun stuff. It's really worked out really well. We consider ourselves very fortunate, you know, fingers crossed that continues. The college have a plan for reopening over the next couple of quarters. We're also on the quarter system. DJ training has not been possible. So those that have been through our training class in the last year are getting very frustrated because they can't go up to the station. We can't train them. We're trying to engage them in other activities as best as possible, but a few have just drifted away. And it's a great shame because we thrive on new people coming into the station. So that's our biggest issue. We're trying to do a video tuition thing, and that hasn't really worked out yet. So I'd say, you know, it's all good for us, except that we can't do DJ training, and we can't wait to get that going again. So that's the story from over here.
Do you guys have access? I know with our campus, we're an Adobe campus, so all the students have free access to the Adobe suite. If you have that kind of access, we've done that with our DJs and gotten them all to download and run Audition. And we've done some very sloppy but functional remote DJ training on how they can build shows from their rooms or from their apartments or wherever.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
even if you don't, the student discount price, because they'd be attached to an EDU enterprise, is going to be cheap enough. It might be worth it.
Yeah, we've got those few of us that actually classify as campus employees. We're eligible for 2 licenses each. So we've got about 6 to share, but anybody else, because they're community education, not part of the academic program, they don't qualify for that. So they're on their own. And our people are using a variety of their own editors. A lot of people use Audacity, of course. Some people have gone out and bought some other, and you know, some people use the one on Apple. I can't remember what it's called now. Something Pro, Logic Pro. Some people have Pro Tools. So we have a variety of things, and we've had a few DJs being able to successfully do pre-recorded shows from home. We haven't tried having a live show from home yet. I love that idea of trying to do that through maybe a Zoom session in the master studio. We'll have to experiment with that. So yeah, but good point.
Another one of the dolls that you could look at, I know Hindenburg is a sponsor of CBI, and Hindenburg allows 30-day trials, and it's relatively straightforward on how to use. So that's another option if DJs want to test something out. 30 days is a pretty decent time for a free trial. So if it's free, it's for me.
Jamie?
One of the things that we did to help supplement DJ training is obviously in pre-COVID times, half of the class was taught in the studio. So I could be like, and this is what this is and such. So we did actually do some videos, and you get to see me say balls on the air while using the dump button, and it's pretty good. And so they're unlisted, but I've shared my YouTube playlist if you want to see some of the F-bomb. Yes, that's also why I use that word and not a different word, because every so often the dump button does not work. So it's just one on how to do that. One, I insisted that they explain to people where the scrap paper was, so that they wouldn't just write on the operating log and the program log all the time, you know, how to use such things. And I think, you know, moving forward, that's an excellent resource that we'll keep around. So feel free to watch my videos. And also the one where I'm on the phone, I'm the one that calls on the hotline. First time I did it scared the crap out of them. I was like, I can hear you talking about it. I'm just calling you to demonstrate what it is. So yeah, video resources are a good thing that's coming out of this.
We actually did that pre-pandemic as well. So I just dropped mine in. Way to have an Axia board. But yeah, so we did both our automation system training and how to use the console. And then we tagged in there how to clean our studio. So we did a cleaning video and put that in our playlist. So that's actually part of our training video. And it's going to stay there because people are gross, and they're going to be gross, and they're going to not wash their hands after they ate something and go into the studio. So I still want them to be wiping surfaces down. So it's here to stay.
Yeah, I definitely agree about the cleaning thing. I was tired of, I was going in and doing it every couple days, but now that it's everybody's problem, it makes me feel a little better. And I hope we do that for always. Like I definitely, and be part of that is my office has always been in a residence hall. For a long time, it was in a freshman residence hall that was an old Days Inn. So like years and years of accumulated grossness. So yeah, it's anything we can keep to keep it neater and to keep it kind of top of mind, like, oh, I should wipe that off, would be wonderful. No random stickiness on the desk would be like a dream come true for me.
I will say that one of the other thing that's been beneficial is we normally don't allow food and drink in the station anyway, but with the mask requirement, it's been even easier to keep people from eating and drinking in the station. Plus, they've now realized finally that we have cameras in the station paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, having the "we can see you." We have the same. I have a fashion publication that I also advise, and they're like, "Well, what if we don't follow these rules for our on-set shoots?" And it's like, "Well, we'll still know because you're taking pictures of it. Like that's your product." So kind of getting people to think in that mindset, like, "Oh, the things that I used to get away with, maybe there's no getting away with that anymore ever, and not just there's no getting away with it right now because of this magic wacky time. No, probably forever." So things like that. All right, we're almost at an hour. If anybody else wants to jump in or ask any questions or say any last, cool stuff, but it
Just
sounds like
wanna-
we're all
I
hanging
want to
in.
shout out John Devecka's CBI Baltimore in the background. We're coming. We're coming.
It was subtle, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I just have to say
Customized.
it was awesome to see everybody.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right. Well,
I'm glad to hear so many people are dealing with this in interesting ways, and nobody's station is completely imploded.
Yet.
I know, like Brian and Eric were saying, we've run a lot of alumni stuff. This weekend's Vinyl-thon is going to include a lot of alumni Vinyl-thon hours
All
for
right.
nights. But it's been kind of fun because I actually have one from a kid who used to do an all vinyl show in 2006 that we're going to run as an hour. So
Nice.
I just have to go back through and remember to change some of the things they mention about where you can find us on the dial and things.
yeah, lots of great creative problem solving all around. So thanks, everybody. So this is going to be online, and I'm going to follow up with, I'm going to try to get some of these links together to some of these products that everybody mentioned to kind of make like a little resource guide. And if it's okay, Sean and Jamie Lynn, can I post the links to the videos
Sure.
that you shared? Okay, cool. I'm going to do
Yes, I
that
will
too.
say so audibly, so there's a recording.
Yes. And then that's pretty much it. And thanks so much. If you have follow-up questions, obviously listserv is a great place for that. And then see you all in real life in October 27th in Orlando, Florida. And it better be sunny because I keep saying sunny Orlando. And if it isn't, then you can't blame me for that. I don't make the weather.
If anyone wants a follow-up, feel free either through the listserv or privately. When it comes to any of these softwares, for the most part, I already have bought them, so I'll be happy to demo it for you and not make you have to sit through a presentation from a salesperson. And I'm more than happy to troubleshoot or test stuff out with you. So just please feel free to reach out.
Hey, Sean, just briefly, as a complete aside, did you say Axia? You're using Axia?
Yes, sir.
May I touch base with you separately about
Absolutely.
that? I'm just
Sure you may.
about to put in a PO for a Telos Axia setup, and I'd be interested in picking your brains if you could spare me some time.
No problem.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see y'all later.